Welcome to Murder and Mystery HQ. Let's get into it. Okay, first stop on this crazy train is London. We're going back, way back, to the late 1800s. Foggy streets, the air thick with mystery and, okay, probably also pollution. But let's focus on the mystery. Now, this dude or lady or ghost or whoever becomes the blueprint for every true crime obsession that comes after. Why? Because Jack didn't just kill people. Oh no. Jack played with the media. Jack played with the public. Jack turned an entire city into a paranoid mess. And here's the kicker. We still don't know who Jack was. Like, it's been over a century and we've got more questions than answers. Was it a doctor, a butcher, a royal, a time traveler? I'm joking. Or am I? The suspect list is longer than my grocery receipt. Everyone and their grandma had a theory. The newspapers went bonkers. And the thing is, back then, forensics were basically people squinting at stuff and going, suspicious. Jack the Ripper teaches us something important. When you mix fog, fear, and a catchy nickname, you get a legend that never dies. All right. Next up, we're hopping over to California in the 1960s and 70s, where another mystery man decided to make life miserable for everyone. Say hello to the Zodiac Killer. Now, this guy took things to a whole new level. Not only did he commit heinous crimes, but he sent letters, codes, puzzles. Like, imagine committing crimes and then being like, "Hey, want to play a game?" What? The newspapers published his stuff. The public tried to crack his codes. Everyone became an amateur detective. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrifying chaos. And here's what makes this case so bone-chilling. Someone out there was enjoying the chase. They wanted the attention. They loved the confusion. It's like they turned murder into performance art, which is, wow, that's dark. The Zodiac case becomes this massive game of cat and mouse, except the mouse is sending taunting letters, and the cat is an entire police department going, "What is happening?" Copycats popped up. Hoaxes flooded in. Real leads got buried under all the noise. It was a mess. Now, we got to talk about someone who still gives people nightmares for a very specific reason. Ted Bundy. Here's the thing about Bundy that messes with people's heads. He didn't look like a monster. He looked normal, handsome even, well-spoken, charming. The kind of guy your mom might say, "Oh, what a nice young man." And that's what makes this case so terrifying. Because danger doesn't always come with a warning label. Sometimes it shows up with a smile and a favor. Bundy used his charm like a weapon. He knew how to manipulate trust, how to look harmless, how to make people feel safe. And that's the scariest part. Our grandparents, they understood this. They had rules. Don't talk to strangers. Don't take rides. If something feels off, run. Those rules weren't just paranoia. They were survival tactics. This case leaves us with a brutal lesson. Politeness is not a safety plan. Charm is not proof of character. A clean smile does not equal a clean soul. All right, this next one? This one hurts. Because it's not just about the crimes, it's about the missed chances. The warning signs that got ignored. The moments where things could have been stopped, but weren't. Jeffrey Dahmer. People reported concerns. Neighbors smelled something terrible. Police were called multiple times, and yet life just kept moving. Systems failed. People hesitated. Bias crept in, and the horror continued. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash, where everyone sees it coming, but nobody hits the brakes. And that's what makes people so angry about this case. This is a case about small failures stacking up into something enormous. It's about how communities sometimes ignore gut feelings because they don't want to seem dramatic. It's about how systems get overwhelmed and miss the red flags screaming in their faces. But here's the silver lining. People learned from this. People became more willing to trust their instincts, more willing to speak up, more willing to say, something's not right here. All right, let's talk about someone who had everyone fooled. Wayne Gacy. This dude was a pillar of the community. Birthday parties, charity events, community gatherings. Everyone loved him. He was like the neighborhood's favorite uncle. And that was the disguise. That was the camouflage. Because communities create these automatic trust positions, right? We assume people are safe based on their role, their reputation, how many people wave at them in public. Big mistake. Huge. This case is a brutal reminder. Trust should be earned, not automatic. Just because someone's popular doesn't mean they're safe. Just because someone throws good parties doesn't mean they're good people. Older folks get this. They've seen how communities sometimes protect reputations before they protect victims. It's ugly, but it's real. Gacy, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Oh boy, okay, this one messes with your head in a very specific way. Dennis Rader, BTK, bind, torture, kill. Now here's what makes this case absolutely bonkers. This guy was living a double life. Like, we're talking full-on Clark Kent Superman situation here, except instead of saving the world, he was, during the day, church president, scout leader, compliance officer. The guy who tells you to follow the rules. At night, completely different person. And that's the nightmare fuel right there, because we want danger to announce itself. We want the scary music to play. We want the villain to look like a villain. But nope. Dennis Rader showed up looking like your neighbor Bob, who borrows your lawnmower and brings it back with a full tank. Terrifying. The craziest part? He got away with it for decades. And you know what finally caught him? His own ego. He started sending messages again after years of silence because he missed the attention. He literally asked the police, "Can you trace a floppy disk?" And they were like, no, totally can't. They totally could. Well, he believed them, sent the disk, got caught. Sometimes karma works in the funniest ways. Okay, now we're getting to a case that actually gives me hope. Like genuine, real hope. The Golden State Killer, Joseph DeAngelo. This case, my friends, is legendary. Not just because of the crimes, but because of how it got solved. For decades, and I mean decades, this guy terrorized California. Break-ins, assaults, murders, and then, poof, vanished. Ghost mode activated. Investigators hit wall after wall after wall. Families waited. Detectives aged out. Cases went cold. Files gathered dust. And everyone thought, that's it. He's gone. We'll never know. But then, technology enters the chat. DNA, genealogy databases, family trees. Science fiction becomes science fact. Investigators got creative. They used public genealogy databases, tracked down distant relatives, built family trees, and slowly closed the net. And in 2018, bam, arrest. At his home. A 72-year-old former cop just living his life like nothing happened. Can you imagine? You think you got away with it for 40-plus years, and then one day, knock knock, hi, we matched your DNA through your third cousin's ancestry profile. Surprise. Now, there is a conversation here about privacy and DNA databases and civil liberties. Totally valid. But man, the fact that justice can reach back through decades, that cold cases aren't necessarily dead cases anymore, that's powerful. This case tells victims and families, time doesn't always protect the guilty. Science catches up. Persistence pays off. Justice might be slow, but it can still arrive. All right, we got to talk about a case that shows how fear can absolutely warp an entire society. Andrei Chikatilo, the Soviet Union, mass panic. Imagine this. Over a dozen years, dozens of victims, and authorities are scrambling. The public is terrified. Parents won't let kids out. Travel becomes scary. Every stranger is suspicious. The pressure to solve this case becomes crushing. And here's where things get messy. Because when a society is gripped by fear, two things happen simultaneously. One, investigation gets supercharged. Resources pour in. Detectives work around the clock. 2. The wrong people start getting accused. Paranoia takes over. Innocent folks get swept up. The system starts making mistakes because the pressure is too intense. At one point, they even executed the wrong guy. A man confessed under pressure, probably coerced, and they killed him. Then they found the real killer later. Like, how do you come back from that? This case becomes a brutal lesson. Fear is not always your friend. Yes, it can motivate action, but it can also burn everything down, including innocent lives. The investigation eventually succeeded through persistence, forensics, and psychology, but the scars of panic and wrongful accusations, those stay forever. Chikatilo eventually caught and executed. In my opinion, stay vigilant, but stay rational. All right, now we're moving into current territory. These cases are still playing out right now in courts and headlines. So, we gotta be super careful with our language here. Accused means accused. Charged means charged. Convicted means convicted. We're talking legal precision here because these stories are still being written. Ready? Let's go. First up, Rex Heuermann, the Gilgo Beach case. Okay, so Rex Heuermann has been accused in the Gilgo Beach killings, and he has pleaded not guilty. That's important. We're in alleged territory here. Now, in September 2025, a judge made a big decision. All charges will be handled in one single trial, instead of splitting them up. That's huge from a legal strategy standpoint. Why does that matter? Well, one trial means jurors hear everything at once. All the evidence, all the accusations, all in one narrative. Some people say that creates a clearer picture. Others worry it could prejudice the jury, like, well, he's accused of this many things, so he must be guilty of something, right? The defense fought to exclude certain DNA evidence, specifically advanced whole genome sequencing stuff. But the court said, nope, that's coming in. So now we're watching cutting-edge forensic science play out in real time. This case is being watched closely because it represents where forensics, law, and public interest all collide. And families are waiting for answers that have been decades in the making. Okay, this last one is heavy, and we got to handle it with care. Lucy Letby, the UK hospital case. Lucy Letby was convicted in the UK of murdering babies and attempting to murder others. She received multiple whole life sentences. That's the legal outcome as it stands. But, and this is important, the story didn't end there. In February 2025, an independent panel of medical experts came forward and publicly challenged some of the medical evidence used at trial. They reviewed the cases and said they found no medical evidence of murder in the cases they examined. Now, that doesn't overturn the conviction, but it does open up this massive conversation about expert testimony, how evidence gets interpreted, and how courts handle incredibly complex medical cases. This case sits at this really painful intersection of medicine, law, and public emotion. Families are grieving. Institutions are under scrutiny. And the legal system is wrestling with questions about how certainty works when experts disagree. What we're watching here is the ongoing debate about justice, evidence, and what happens when a case continues to generate questions after a verdict. This one's tough, really tough, and it reminds us that even when courts reach decisions, the conversations about truth and justice can continue, and sometimes should continue. Letby's case, legally concluded but publicly debated. A reminder that justice is complex, and truth is sometimes elusive. Okay, we made it. We survived the deep dive. Drop a comment about which case shook you the most. Tell me if your grandma has stories about these cases. Let me know what lessons you're taking away. And hey, if you made it this far, you're officially part of the Night Shift crew. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Share this with someone who loves a good mystery.